All right, guys, so in this video, we're gonna cover Wing Chun for Jeet Kune Do and specifically some drills that you can do at home without a training partner. Now, I'll tell you that Wing Chun for Jeet Kune Do looks a lot different than traditional Wing Chun. And unfortunately, we do have a lot of Jeet Kune Do guys, Jeet Kune Do instructors that are doing very traditional Wing Chun and, calling it Jeet Kune Do, or they're doing traditional Wing Chun and trying to add it with Jeet Kune Do. It gets really confusing for most of you guys online, okay? So what I wanna do is just tell you some practical things that you can do as far as your Wing Chun training that are applicable into your Jeet Kune Do structure, into your on guard stance and everything that we do in JKD. So first thing I want you all to train, if you have a heavy bag or something like that at home, we're gonna train this on the heavy bag. So I'm gonna grab my gloves here. And so really what I want you to do is we're gonna train the Wing Chun straight punch. And obviously in the Jeet Kune Do curriculum, we do have the Wing Chun version of the Wing Chun chain punch, the Wing Chun blast in the curriculum. But how I want you guys to train this, we're gonna train it from the Wing Chun stance, which is called E.G. Kim Young Ma. So it's kind of this Wing Chun stance here, this goat squeezing stance is what they call it. That's how it's translated. We go into more detail in our online lessons, jkdprocess.com. But if you have just a basic neutral stance, this is where I want you to train your punching. It's one thing to train your punching here where you've got the backing of your rear leg and you can get a lot of good power here. It's very easy to punch from here. I want you to learn how to punch neutral, where now it's harder in terms of your balance, your stability is a lot harder when you're punching, and it really does require you just to utilize your structure, okay? So essentially I'm punching from my rear foot still, even though my feet are neutral, I'm still punching from the heel, essentially is where the punch is coming from. So I want you to work this as you're punching, okay? Just right here. Try to keep the shoulders square. We're not going to turn, rotate, just punch with your elbow. Don't worry about speed. I really want you to train for power in this specific situation. So that's your first drill. Just working that punch and really just feeling that push against you, because you're gonna have a sense that you're gonna wanna step back to get more stability. So that's drill number one. Just learning how to stand your structure and punch just with the elbow, because now when you're in your on guard stance and you're working that punch, it's going to be a lot faster, not just faster, but just going to be a lot stronger, okay? And you're going to be able to withstand the impact and you're not going to get pushed back. That's the goal. That's what we're training for, okay? All right, next one I want you guys to work on is turning. So we have this concept in Wing Chun. We call like I told you, E.G. Kim Young Ma, but we also turn within E.G. Kim Young Ma. So what that looks like is I essentially am turning on my heels. So the idea in Wing Chun is you want to keep your feet rooted, planted, particularly in the heels. So at JKD, of course, we come up on the ball of our feet, but Wing Chun, we're going to stay rooted. We stay our heels on the ground. Now, typically in Wing Chun, we do this from double lan sao. It's called lan sao here. This is typically how we turn, we rotate. So your feet should be like windshield wipers. Your feet should be like windshield wipers on the same line. In other words, when I turn, I'm not turning so that one toe is facing you, the other one's facing this way, or I'm not turning where my feet are inward this way. They're both at a 45-degree angle, right? 45-degree angle, 45-degree angle. Now the goal is when I turn, I do want to turn my hips more than I turn my feet. So my hips are going to turn at a 180 degree, where my feet are only turning at 90. This is the 45-degree angle. They turn at another 45 to stay at 90, but my hips are turning at 180. So this is the drill. Now you say, Rob, this looks great. This looks like traditional Wing Chun. Why would I do this as a JKD guy? The reason we do this, the reason I recommend you try this as a JKD person is because what we're doing is learning how to turn and generate quick explosiveness and initiation speed in our strikes, in our punching. We're utilizing the shoulder whirl principle. That's a principle from Jack Dempsey. You can learn about that in our online lessons, of course, okay? But we're learning how to rotate to generate power in our strikes. And so even if you're just doing these turns from Wing Chun, you learn how to do them explosively, and that adds a lot of torque and power into your punching. Be mindful when you do this, and everything that you do, just be safe. But this can put a lot of pressure on the knees. So just be careful there if you have knee injuries or knee issues as you're working this. Just be mindful of that, okay? As you're turning, you are staying typically in your Wing Chun structure, which means you're 60% of your weight's on your back leg, 40% is on your front leg, and hips are slightly forward as you're turning here, okay? So that's the second drill that I recommend you work on. Now the last one I want you to do is really work in, as you do your shadow boxing, I want you to work in your trapping, specifically your Pak Sao and your Lap Sao. Now keep in mind, Pak Sao, Lap Sao, your trapping, don't think about it as traditional, okay, this is my Pak Sao and this is my Lap Sao. Okay, think about it from a JKD standpoint. How would Bruce Lee do a Lap Sao, or how would he do a Pak Sao? It's gonna be a lot more aggressive. It's gonna be a lot more forceful than just a little, you know, Pak here or a Lap here. So use some aggression with it, right? Use some aggression with your trapping, okay? That's what I want you guys to do. And so when you're shadow boxing, use that. Maybe I jab and then I go to a Lap, then I go to a Pak and come back, right? This is a Lap Sao now, a Lap Sao and punch, Lap Da, right? Then I swing around for the hook. Maybe I throw another jab into a cross, then I'm gonna Lap. So what I like to do is I like to, after a strike, I like to turn that now into a trap. Whatever strike I threw, whether it's a punch, my hand's gotta come back anyway. So why not turn this into, and I happen to be on this side, which is fine. I'm gonna turn this more into a Jut Sao and hit. That's fine. You can turn this here. We call this Cup Sao technically, but it's not really. But it is a way to trap the arm. You come here, you can come low, you can come high, and there's different terms. People may call this different things, okay? But we call this, because I'm cupping on the back of the elbow here. It's not quite a Lap, or sorry, not quite a Pak Sao. It's not quite a Lap Sao, or a Pak Sao, okay? But I'm coming down here, and it's not a Bong Sao, right? So anyway, work in your trapping after your strikes and work that in with your shadow boxing, just trapping, throwing your kicks here, you're punching, Lap, punch, right? Lap again. Maybe I Lap with the same hand and punch with the same hand. That's fine too. But start shadow boxing with your trapping to make it more accessible and make it more natural. Otherwise, it's not gonna be natural for you. The hardest part in your trapping is what you don't want to do. You don't want to chase the arms or chase the hands. And a lot of times when you're trapping, you kind of have to do that to some degree. I have to reach for his hand. Instead of going on center, or instead of striking on center, you know, I have to enter in and reach for the arm, because his arm may be trying to punch me, and I want to check that. I don't want to get hit, obviously. So it does force you a little bit to chase the hand, even though you're trying as much as possible to stay on center. But because we're dealing in boxing and MMA and other types of combat, folks aren't just throwing straight punches, okay? They aren't just throwing punches on center line. They are throwing looping, curving punches, and they're stepping and angling and throwing uppercuts and kicks and everything else. So just be mindful of that as you guys train, as you guys work out. But those are 3 exercises you can do to work on and improve your Wing Chun and make it applicable for your Jeet Kune Do at home.